is fixed. Nothing can delay him. Nothing can deter him. He's set, dead set on going to Jerusalem. Where does a guy get that kind of resolve? Knowing that in just a few weeks, he's going to be walking through the gates of the city that will see him dead. Where does a person get that kind of resolve? Where does a person get that kind of motivation? That kind of guts to go through with it and not let anything deter him? I got to admit to you, that's not me. I am so not there. Last night, my wife came home late. She was gone, and there was a dance competition that my daughter was in. And so they didn't come home until like 11:30, something like that. And usually, I like to try to get in bed on Saturday nights at around 9:30. That's my goal. I haven't done it in years. I used to do it quite well, but in years I haven't done that. And because for whatever reason this last week, I had some things pile up on me, and I got working late, so some of the stuff hadn't been finished yet. So it's 11:30, and I'm still working on the bulletin, and I'm still putting some finishing touches on my message and everything. Well, I had the message stuff pretty much all done, and all I needed to do was print up some things. But as Jen comes in, she says, "I'm tired, I'm going upstairs to go to bed. How much longer are you going to be?" And I said, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And so she goes on upstairs. I come back to my desk, I sit down, and while I'm there, I get this brilliant idea for something you're going to see later on. And I get this brilliant idea, and I say, "Oh, that would be really cool." Well, 2 hours later, I finished that brilliant idea. And so when you see it later on, you better thank me. Because it's awesome. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's incredible. And I shouldn't have set it up that high. Maybe let's bring your expectations down a little bit. It's really kind of nice. But it's something that distracted me, okay? I was on a mission. 20 minutes from now, I'm going to be in bed, get some good rest, and then I just totally got distracted. I procrastinate like you wouldn't believe. In fact, just last night, as I was thinking through this whole issue, I found on my desk this little card that says, "Perfect procrastination." It's a little tool to help you procrastinate better. It's a little word search on all the different ways you can procrastinate. So just for example, I'll look at the answers here. One is making lists. One is, what is that? Googling, okay? One is sorting. One is filing. I never do that stuff. Facebook, emailing, tidying. No, that's not me. Coffee. There you go. And doodling. No, I don't do that so much. But yeah, I procrastinate some of these things. Why do today what you can put off for tomorrow? If the world ends tomorrow, procrastinators win. But Jesus fixed his face, and nothing was going to get in his way. Nothing was going to delay him. Where does that kind of resolve come from? Well, in order to find that out, we have to go back. We have to go back a few verses, all the way to verse 20. So you're in chapter 9, stay there, just kind of skip back a little bit. We're going back to verse 20, and we're going to take a look at a big story here that is one of the most fascinating stories, in my mind, of Jesus' life. Okay, so we're going to verse 20. If you've got one of the Bibles that we passed out, it's on page 718. In fact, let's go ahead and start at verse 18 just to give the whole context to that. Once when Jesus was praying in private, and his disciples were with him, he asked them, "Who do the crowds say I am?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others that one of the prophets of long ago has come back to life." "But what about you?" he said. He asked, "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered. I love Peter. He just jumps up and gives whatever is on the top of his mind. Peter answered, "The Christ of God." Jesus strictly warned them not to tell this to anyone. And he said, check this, "The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law centered in Jerusalem. And he must be killed and on the third day be raised to life." Then he said to them all, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. I tell you the truth, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God. Now, I could talk for an hour or two on that passage there, just what it means to deny yourself, take up the cross, and follow Jesus. But that's just giving us sort of the preface, the background information for what we're about to see next. About 8 days after Jesus said this, he took Peter, John, and James with him and went up onto a mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. 2 men, Moses and Elijah, appeared in glorious splendor talking with Jesus. They spoke about his departure, which he was about to bring to fulfillment in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions were very sleepy, but when they became fully awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men standing with him. As the men were leaving Jesus, Peter said to him, "Master, it's good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." By the way, he did not know what he was saying. In other words, Peter says dumb things. Verse 34, while he was speaking, a cloud appeared and enveloped them, and they were afraid as they entered the cloud. A voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son, whom I have chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, they found that Jesus was alone. The disciples kept this to themselves and told no one at that time what they had seen. Now, this is an amazing passage to me. I remember when I was a little kid, my Sunday school teacher would get up in front of our class, and she had this little board off to the side, and the board was covered with felt. And it was called a flannel graph. And she had these little paper cutout dolls, and each one of them had on the back side of the paper something sticky or maybe another piece of felt, depending on how much money she had spent on these little paper cutout dolls. And one doll was always the Jesus doll, and he's always wearing a brown kind of thing, toga of some sort. And, he's got the beard and the bright, he's got white face, blue eyes, that kind of stuff. Even though no Jew I've ever met had white face and blue eyes. But, so anyway, here's Jesus, and he's this paper doll, and she would put him on the board. And then here's Peter and James and John standing around him. And I remember she was telling me this story, and she would swap out the paper doll of Jesus